Hello again, and good evening. It's great to come your way this evening again and to come the way of people who just exercise this common belief, this common faith. Within each one of us is this creator-given huge capability to be change makers, difference makers, game changers, to make a difference. We can determine outcomes. We can determine the outcome of our world. We can determine the outcome of life. And not only can we determine that, but we can also actually make them happen. We always quote from the line within the American Constitution that says all men, that means all women, are created equal and we are each endowed by our Creator. The Constitution says with certain inalienable rights, but for our purposes, we say with the divine capability to be game changers and change makers. The point, therefore, is that we cannot excuse ourselves for almost permanently living in rot and in depravity, where we sit in no progress, no advancement. We cannot excuse ourselves that we cannot be what Singapore is, what Malaysia is, what the so-called first world is, what they've become and what they've done to their societies, particularly as Africa. Why? Because within each one of us, within each human being, is this power. No matter where we are, no matter where we were born, no matter our gender, no matter the skin pigmentation, we are endowed with what it takes to also bring transformational change. For us, particularly here as Africa, it is travesty. It's a major travesty. It's a contradiction that we are blessed with so much natural resource and what have you. So much natural resource. So much natural resource. And yet we can't even seem to get it together. You look at Rwanda and the kind of push they are making towards transformational change. And that is one glimmer of hope. But then I believe that if you aggregate the blessing that this continent and its people sit on, the blessing we sit on, first the human capital resource and then the natural resource, if you aggregate and put these two big pillars of resource together, we have no excuse for being where we are and for not doing what we must do and not having what we must have. The Democratic Republic of Congo and all through the southern west belt, right down through South Africa, all the way to the north of Africa, from Cairo to Cape Town, across this entire continent, we are so blessed. So then where's the problem? Where's the issue? Where's the missing link? It is simply leadership. And I know the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about this missing link, referencing leadership, you are thinking of position, you're thinking of title, but no. When we talk about leadership, it is disposition. That is the quality of mindset, the quality of our humanity, the quality of our being. This is the simple bare fact that has been the basis for nations becoming transformed and developed. And those still on the journey of being transformed, this is the basis for which they can now write beautiful stories about themselves. We've been looking at the case study of Singapore. Singapore is a country widely known for its economy and resources. Today, Singapore has become a sustainable city with clean air and a clean living environment, a great supply of water and beautiful green spaces. What many people overlook, however, is the fact that no good thing springs out of nowhere. In efforts to provide employment for their people, the leaders of Singapore began to experiment with globalization. They knew they had to depend on the developed world and convince multinational corporations to manufacture their goods in Singapore. In order to attract investors, Singapore had to create an environment that was safe. The citizens had to give up a large measure of their freedom, and thus their leadership bordered on autocracy. They demonstrated the entrepreneurial value of change of mindset. They realized that if they wanted to make a difference in their lives, they had to do something new and different. By 1972, just 7 years after independence, 1/4 of Singapore's manufacturing firms were either foreign-owned or joint venture companies, and both the United States and Japan were major investors. As a result of Singapore's steady climate, favorable investment conditions, the country's gross domestic product experienced annual double-digit growth. This was the result of their action. Singapore, as we've said, is a country that's widely known for its economy and its resources. Some of the best eco-friendly, sustainable infrastructure developments today in the entire world you can find in Singapore. Buildings, residential buildings, apartments, and so on, townhomes, townhouses. Part of the component is the greenery on different parts, different levels of the building, and all the benefits it provides. Singapore is sort of in the lead with this kind of resourceful development that does not denigrate and degrade the environment, like we are trying to do here in Ghana through illegal gold mining, what we call galamsey, totally destroying the environment. Singapore is doing exactly the opposite. Great resourcefulness, literally bringing real, true transformational change to the nation, to the country. And even in the building technology, they are thinking innovatively, thinking creatively, and thinking progressively with the human being and with the environment at the center of this vision, this visionary thinking. In other words, what Singapore has done is to say, let's think of the development of our country without doing it at the expense of life, quality of life, environment, quality of environment, and all of that. That's what Singapore is doing. And the economy also doing great and doing well. It's easy to overlook the fact that it took effort, it took intentionality, it took deliberateness. No good thing springs out of nowhere. In other words, things don't just happen. Singapore didn't just wake up one day to find itself in this beautifully developed nation. No, it was effort. It was, first of all, intentionality and deliberateness. And that is one of the critical values of leadership. What does it mean? It means, therefore, that you don't have leadership if you are purposeless, if you are haphazard. You may occupy a position, but then that does not constitute leadership. That is not what brings transformational change. That's not what delivers transformational change. You must know what you want. You must make the decision. You must make the choice. You must decide in your mind, what do you want? The entire world, once upon a time, used to be depraved, no values, no principles, just crude, not because of lack of infrastructure or roads, but because of the lack of quality thinking people who can take charge of our nation, of our society, and say, this is the path we are going to go now. And so therefore, we will influence our whole nation with these values. Now, you and I, we are the hope. You are the hope of your nation. You are the hope of tomorrow. You are the hope of the future, because you can make change happen if you decide change will happen. And I'm not talking about some agitation, physical agitation going on the streets. All of that has their value and it has its place. But our emphasis here is you taking personal responsibility for the quality of how your brain functions, your mindset. And so I want to thank you for making the time. Again, please like, subscribe, share. Have a good night and many blessings. Please take good care of yourself.